Welcome to
Oh,
another easy conversation with Chris and Ian.
always good to be here and have a chat. And it's kind of fun today because we've done no preempt for this really at all. We're just
Okay,
running
so
in.
let's preface that. We never talk about, we usually have a topic and we say, hey, we're probably gonna go in that direction, but we don't flesh it out. Like there's no meat and potatoes around this at all. So I just came up with a topic, and I have other life issues going on right now, so I had no time to talk with Chris before, and I have no time to talk with Chris after. So,
We'll
uh,
make up for that some other time. That'll all be good.
yeah. I'm not stressed about that. But today's topic is the importance of connection. Now,
Mm.
I have my own story around that. However, when I mentioned it to you, you said, yeah, I've got something new on that. So why don't we start with
Mm.
what it is that you've got going on about connection, and then we'll see if mine actually filters into that or not.
All right, well, I've got two stories. One I'm going to do fairly quickly, and then I'm going to do a more personal one because I think it's sometimes good to share some more personal reveals, as scary as that can feel. So the first one is networking and connections with networking and people that um, I have met over the years. So you'd get this really great connection feel when you would meet someone in person. Well, for me personally, that's what happens. If I meet someone in person, then I'm more likely to remember where I met them, what the conversation was. I've got a lot more stimulus to remind me to individualize the memory for that person. One of the things that I've found more difficult for me is doing online networking and trying to associate that person and remember them. And there's a couple of reasons. One is that there's no it's not like you're at a new venue. I'm always at this venue in front of my own laptop. So the venue doesn't give me any extra stimulus. And I was on a speed networking group just yesterday, and the 5 people that I ended up doing the speed networking, the 10 minutes networking thing in breakout rooms, 4 of them, they all remembered that they'd met me before, and I it took me an extra minute to get them to remind me where we did meet, where it was online. But as soon as I felt that connection, I felt a sense of ease.
And why is that?
Well, I think my little analysis of that is that I went, oh, well, they've met me before, so they've heard me jabber on about myself or about my business or what my purpose is or all of that. So they've got it. They've already done the prejudgment. So now I could just be me.
That's a lot of stuff rattling around in your head there.
Oh, there's a whole lot of stuff that rattles around in my head. But I was like, so when you raised this idea for this week, I was like, actually, this happens. Now, there was no negative ramifications of that or any difference in how I communicated with those people, but it changed the way I thought about the conversation that I was having with them. And it's a bit of a subtle change, but I suspect it's a significant change because then I allowed myself to go further because they already felt connected to me.
Hmm.
So that
But you don't know
ability.
what their prejudgments were of you.
No, but for some reason I
Who's this
don't
crazy
mind.
blue-haired lady?
Yeah, well, yeah, I'm sure it's the blue hair that they remember,
It's
and
kind
I
of
get
front and
it. It's
center.
a distinction, yeah. And the other thing I find with Zoom is that I tend to look at the camera in my laptop rather than looking at the person, and
Mm.
so I get less triggers of what that person looks like or was wearing or anything like that because it's not where I'm focused on. Yes, I'm seeing them in my peripheral, but I'm not actually focused on that because I want them to feel like I'm talking to them. So I look in my camera. So yeah, it's that was one of the connection stories. The second one is a bit more personal. Been married nearly 28 years, 29 years, something like that. Married back in 93. So, yeah, heading into 29 years.
It's not a round number
and
yet. It's not important.
No, it's not. So it's hard to keep track of. You know, I can't say that those 30 years are always, you know, like Brent and I have always lived together really well and all of that. But occasionally we have these clanging of heads, and we had that a couple of weekends ago, and it was triggered by a separate event that I'd gone to and he hadn't. So I'd felt connected to this event and the outcomes of it, and he was quite removed from it. And often I'm the person that is listening to everybody else. I'm the one that is actively leaning into someone's issues or things. And suddenly the roles were reversed, and he wasn't as well practiced at listening. And so there was some, well, people might call them arguments. I call them disagreements. They go into the early hours of the, well, late night kind of, you know, heading towards midnight type of conversations, which are never productive because everyone's getting tired and you don't get a resolution, and it's really, just escalates.
And you don't sleep well. Yeah, for sure.
So it's all of those combining factors. And so we had a bit of a Saturday night that had gone that way. And I'd got myself so worked up and I wasn't being listened to. Well, that's what I felt. Mm. And it wasn't until he actively said to me, okay, Chris, you can say whatever you want outside, you know, just whatever's going on in your head, just get it out. Just say it. I'm not going to react to it at all. You just say it. If it's getting up me, then do it. Just get it out. And I think the reason, and I did do that, and there was more revealed, and there were tears, and there was a whole lot of things, because I had to get these emotions processed through my mental space.
Yeah, sure.
That's one of the ways that I process. And but it was only because I felt so safe and connected with him, regardless of the fact that I was in mid-argument with him, that I was still able to offload and be heard. And when you suggested the topic of that connection, I was like, yeah, if we haven't pre-established that connection, it can be really hard. And I don't know if it's just me, but I find, so I'll premise it with me, I find it really hard to feel comfortable and to feel safe if I don't feel like I've got a strong connection with someone.
One more time. So you don't feel safe if you don't have the strong connection? Is that what you said?
Yeah.
That's weird, because I have the exact opposite.
I love this. So yeah, so that was when you mentioned that. Those are the two things that came to mind. One's a bit more business related. The other one's still, you know, very representative of, I've still got stuff to work out. But I reassure everyone, my marriage is completely strong and all going well and not a problem at all. But occasionally I still have these conversations or these outbursts that occur that I still have to navigate through and grow from. And that theme of connection was really strong.
But and the thing for you though is the being heard, right? So the invitation from your husband to offload whatever was in your head, right?
Yeah.
That was the trigger for you that made it like okay to share that, right?
Yeah.
And that's when you felt heard.
Yeah.
But up until then, you didn't.
Nope. And so I'd actually closed down and wasn't saying anything about what was in my head, which is why he actively had to say, Chris, this isn't unlike you.
Yeah. So then that's my question, right? So why couldn't you give yourself permission?
Yeah, good question. Haven't quite unpacked that one yet. Actually, I kind of have. The reveal was, so I didn't grow up in a particularly functional household and certainly didn't experience love in a way that families would normally share it, and certainly not in the way that I've shared it with my daughter and my family. And through a family event, I became the person that was level-headed, not attached to the emotional uproar, and was able to support people. And people of my family, of his side of the family, came out and went, "Oh my God, Chris, thank God you were there. That was so great." They were pouring this love and affection on me that I didn't recognize. I can't say I didn't recognize it, but I didn't, again, it's this permission. I didn't feel I had permission to receive it.
Yeah.
And that's what had messed me up. Who'd have thought? Receiving love.
I don't think that's uncommon though. I think a lot of us brush off the receiving of love because of our, our upbringing, right? We end up, when someone gives us the compliment that we really wanted to hear, we're like, yeah, it's not a big deal. Like, you like, and you never actually receive and take it. I remember being a part of a divorce recovery group. I'm happily married now, by the way. But I remember being in that group, and we had to do an experiment where we would like offer up like loving compliments to people who were in the group. And you needed to notice what felt harder for you. Was it the receiving of one or the giving of one, or both? And for me, it was way easier to give one than to receive it. So it was a good kind of learning for me that that's something that I need to stop and actually like bathe myself in a little bit, like let it wash over, accept it, and not immediately pass off and go to the next thing, or like brush by me and go to somebody else.
Yeah, and I've learnt skills to do that in a more professional way and with friends and that kind of thing. But when it came to family, it was a whole nother level.
There's a lot more stuff wrapped up in those family dynamics, right? It's not that easy.
Yeah, so that was the permission that I ultimately unpacked. And of course, then I reflected it on him and me and went, well, no, I don't have permission to speak to you, blah, 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 because the permission energy had just gotten way out of balance. And so he had to, he didn't sit me down and go, "Chris, open up." But it kind of energetically felt like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm curious to know what your opposite version story
Okay, so
is.
it is nothing. Well, it doesn't have to do with this, but like you said, I need to feel like safe in that relationship in order to open up. Whereas with me, I find there's more to lose in that relationship by opening up. So if I don't know the people, like I would go to like these conferences. I went to one in San Francisco, San Jose, whatever. And I remember like having like really deep connections with many people there because I'm like opening myself up to them to a level that I don't do with many people. But because there's no, like if they think I'm weird, they just turn around and they talk to the next person. Like there's no loss for me. Like there's nothing for me to lose.
Okay, right, because
for
there's
me,
no
it's okay.
ongoing impact that could happen because you won't necessarily come across them again.
Right. So like I just met you yesterday or today or 10 minutes ago. So the fact that I share something deep and intimate for me, if you think I'm a weirdo, well, it doesn't matter. Right. So it's a safer experimentation place for me. The reason I brought this up though, for me, the importance of connection, I noticed, and I think this is kind of just situationally because of the last year and a half pandemic, a lot of isolation and whatnot. People have been forced to, and me specifically, to kind of go away, go isolate yourself or be isolated, and you're not connecting with the people you used to connect with on a regular basis and having that connection time.
Yeah.
And lately I've noticed that I've gone so far off balance with that it's like you are unhappy. Like you are by yourself doing tasks and jobs and things that have completely removed you and isolated yourself from that.
Oh, so that's social, removed from any of that social connection.
I became a hermit in my own home, and the troll under the bridge. Like I'm literally like outside building and doing stuff and doing things that are very solitary and isolating in themselves. And I actually caught myself like feeling my face be like upset, like a grumpy face.
Oh, grumpy. Oh,
It makes me laugh, but I called it resting bitch face because that's
yeah.
I just felt like my face feels unhappy. And it just so happens that I had a couple of conversations this week that were designed to be deeper, connecting type conversations, and it really felt good. And I was reminded by just some really, because of the kind of people that were attracted to that conversation, like just some thoughts and things that I believe that I needed to rehear and to be reminded of. And it wouldn't have happened if I wasn't in a space with people who had like mind and wanted to be in that conversation. So it's just highlighting to me that I need to have those deeper conversations more often with more people, but I also need to find my people. Because the people that I've grown up with aren't necessarily the people
that you're growing into
conversations with.
Yeah.
Because we change, we grow, we change, our personal beliefs evolve, and we don't know where the other people stand.
Yeah, and I've got something I've got my 50th coming up next week, and we're having a small gathering.
A big number we can cheer about.
We can, yep, big 50. And I've brought together 30 people, and it's this mix of people from the past who've known me as a kid growing up, and now people who are what I would classify as those connections that I'm growing into or are very much part of my growth. And there's people from around the world, e.g. you, if you were in the same country, you would definitely have an invite to be at the gathering, because these are people that I just feel the qualification for them to be there was because I felt at ease with them, funnily enough. Because I just want an easy night. I don't want there to be that, oh, this is the schoolmates group and this is the family group and I just wanted people, because they're all going to vibe with each other. But it was interesting going through the list of names. I literally went through my Facebook friends list to go, yes, oh, no, because there was this distinction of, I like them, but I've moved kind of on from them. And I'm not even worried that I'm not going to invite them. Isn't that interesting? But I'm so looking forward to what how this group dynamic will work and how it will play out. But I have a sneaky suspicion it's got this nice combination of where I came from, and there's wisdom from those people with wisdom with the people who know me now, and bringing that together, which will be a lovely form of connection. But yeah, I certainly have had to make distinctions between people from my past that I'm no longer connected with and ones that I really choose to stay connected with. And it is those people that are willing to go deeper and not just assume that I am who I am when I was 18 years old, that I'm still that person, or, that they're willing to see that I've been through a whole lot in my adult life, and that has allowed me to change and morph and be someone different. So they're not continually comparing me to who they knew when I was 18 or 12 or 25 or whatever the number was. So this inner connection, this deeper connection is really, I think on a human level, really relevant to humans existing more effectively. So in your description, it was great to hear that I'm assuming the resting bitch face has now shifted.
A little.
Due to?
Because I've had an awareness that I know I need to incorporate more of that type of deeper conversation for me. Things that are not just, how's the weather? Like it's got a little bit more meaning and depth to it than that. I mean, I'm okay to have that kind of conversation from time to time, but I'm just realizing that I need more of that connected time, where we're going to talk about things that have more meaning to me now. I mean, it's probably one of the reasons why I've drifted away from sports. Like I used to
Okay.
be really focused on like hockey and baseball, and like I would watch hours of TV. And now, at a circumstance, I ended up cutting those things out several years ago, and now I'm like, I don't feel like I'm missing anything. I'll watch a couple of games a year, but it's not a big deal. Like I don't prioritize my life around that kind of stuff anymore. So I'm finding that I'm kind of vibrating out of um, the spaces where I don't feel I fit anymore with respect to people and activities and things like that. I'm competing in a golf tournament this weekend, and I haven't played golf in a couple
Nice.
of years, and I'm a little kind of mentally on in my head going, are these still my people? Like, is this gonna be cool or not? Like, I don't know. Like, or am I just gonna put myself in a bad situation for the next three days? Um, but I mean, it's not gonna be bad. I just don't.
No, because you get to wander around a golf course and hit a little white ball.
Yeah, no, I'll probably be in my head plenty over that. However, no, but it's just like I don't know if maybe I vibrated out of that group
And
for a
so that
reason.
it's not going to fulfill you or give you any sort of sense of satisfaction or joy.
I don't know. That's why I'm
Yeah.
curious to see what does evolve from that. Um, but yeah, that's just what I've noticed, and I just want to have more of those conversations and trying to um, figure out how I can connect with more people like that.
Yeah. And I think that there is a process of being able to almost sounds like your golf weekend will be, oh, I'm just testing out whether that's still a thing, whether I'm still connected to that or not, whether that's the sport itself or the people that are involved or just the environment of 3 days of golfing. It's like the just testing. And I think it's okay to give ourselves permission to, ironically, me saying about permission. Oh, I love it. I picked up on it. Giving ourselves permission to try those things, even though they feel like they might be old, or maybe we're not going to connect to it, and allowing ourselves to experience that, because the more we can get clarity on that, the outcome might be, oh, I'm not quite so connected. And that's a clarity. Or I'm still feeling really connected. And that's also a bit of clarity.
And I think that's really has a nice parallel with relationships. When you break up with somebody and then you get back together, like, is there still something here? And you'll know it, or you will know it. One way or the other, you're going to figure it out. And there may be
And you,
aspects of this that I really have missed and would like to really incorporate again. And there may be others that I want to clean up.
and we do this in our personal lives. And I think it's really healthy to do it in business as well. I've recently had someone who came back from my past, essentially, although she's still very part of my future and has always been there on the wings. And she knew me 15 years ago, and now we're collaborating again. And we collaborated 15 years ago. I don't know that we called it collaborating, because I wasn't in business and entrepreneur kind of speak, but it was definitely, when I look back on it, it was a collaboration. And to be able to re-collaborate with her and see what that connection is, and having that history with her has really helped establish and clean out. Again, this is where I feel super comfortable with her, because I've got that original connection. And so I'm happy to go wherever she needs me to go, because it's got a bit of history. And I went, all right, let's see if that history connection is still in place. And it absolutely is. And it's not really about our past connection. It's just a handy bonus.
It's interesting because I have a similar experience. There's a woman, and she may even see this. She does listen to these from time to time. And I call it our breakup, because we worked on many projects together, and then I knew I just needed to go out on my own and do my own thing for a bit. So when she asked me if I wanted to participate on a project together, I said, I don't think it's the right one for me. And so I call it our breakup story. And then like 6 months, 8 months, a year later, she said, are you interested in trying
Are
something
you ready
again? I'm
yet?
like, yes, I am. Yeah, I'm good. Let's do this. And it's perfect. It all worked out great. And we have and are still doing other projects. But I think I needed that separation, that break, in order for me to grow as a person, as a business owner, to kind of grow and find my own style in the world, and then reconnect. And that connection was always there. And I always enjoyed conversations with her. And I know we grow from each other in the context of that connection.
And I guess on a bigger picture, we all know that we grow from each other, and whatever conversation we have, we can grow from. It's also about realizing that sometimes the growth is being able to go, and it's not right at the moment, or I'm not needing to grow in that way at the moment, or I don't want to grow in that way at the moment.
And I think that's valid. I think in the beginning, I probably clung to it. Like, I need this work. I need to keep going. So, she's my lifeline to get some of that. And then when we had our breakup, I had to go do it on my own and find my own way. And then really clarify my voice on what I was trying to do. So then when we came back together, it was like, yes, I am on board, but I'm on board for a different reason now.
And as you say that, I'm completely substituting that onto my story of the family and them piling love onto me and acceptance. It was acceptance, and they saw me in a different way, and
but is that because
it just took me
yourself in a different way?
Well, possibly, but what I could hear was, yep, I had to take a break for 30 odd years from feeling connected to family to create my own family, to know what it is I wanted in family connection. And now the other side of the family now goes, oh, look, she's ready to be connected to us in a way that she's never been before. So yes, they're seeing me in a different way, and I'm probably ready for it. It just taken me years and years. And I think there's some circumstances that will take longer than we'd hope, because as much as I have dysfunctional family history, I don't actually want to be too disconnected, but I find that it's healthier for me mentally and emotionally. And sometimes it'll just take longer than we actually like.
I think it's about finding the connections that work for you and strengthening them, and then even cutting the cords to the ones that do not serve you or them.
Yeah, totally.
Sometimes that's hard because they're the family cords, right? But if the relationships aren't serving each other, why try to keep it going?
Yeah, and we wouldn't do it in our business, and yet we do persist it with family and some friends as well when it's not really beneficial. And we sometimes find that easier in business to cut it. I've had a couple of conversations recently with clients who have had issues with their clients, and they've gone, oh, I have to sack a client. I'm like, oh, okay, that's a bit abrupt, but sure. But they're kind of needing, but really it's the same thing. They're needing to move on. They're not liking the relationship. So they find it like it's almost easier to go, well, okay. And they might find a subtle way or a convenient way to move on from that client,
right.
Or for that client to move on from them. But when they're speaking to me about it, that's the language they're using, because they just want to go, no, I'm done. I need to cut it. It needs to move on now. But we don't do that so easily with more personally close relationships. So maybe we need to learn a bit of that from our business approaches.
Well, I think there's lessons to be learned in all of them. I think it just is like this week, I was forced to recognize and to look at, what am I doing and what do I want to change? So where do I want to put my energy out so that I'm connecting and getting that energy that I'm seeking for myself. So for me, that was a couple of realizations. So my encouragement to anybody who decides to listen to this is to try to take a few minutes to themselves to decide, where do I need to put my energy and attention for, to reinforce those connections or cut them.
So that's that clarity, isn't it? Finding the clarity of whether those connections are being effective and helpful, and so that you don't have resting bitch face. I really think we need to end it on that. I think that's really cool. Let's ditch all the resting bitch face.
I should try to take a picture, but I guarantee I'll smile every time I lift up my phone, so it won't be there.
Awesome.
Oh,
well,
thanks, Chris.
I'm really glad we could have this little chat. I'm always surprised at the clarity that we get just by sharing things that have happened over the last few weeks.
And I think it goes to show, when you're able to open up yourself, you actually build that connection.
Completely.
Right?
Yeah, definitely.
Big learning for me.